And I am knowing and trusting that each and every person will take the beautiful sound of God's voice from this place forth into the world to spread it out between each and every person that they meet and to fill every space where they go. And I'm so thankful for these truths. I'm so thankful for these absolutes that we are here now, are witnessing and being. And I release these words into the perfect action and order of the law, knowing them to be true, knowing them to be complete, knowing them to already be part of the weft and the weave of this universe and all beyond. I release it, I let go, and I let God, and together let us anchor this prayer by together saying, "And so it is."
And I'd like to...
We believe in spiritual living. Above all else, it is a philosophy that urges us to focus on how to think and not what to think. It invites us to practice this philosophy and apply it to our lives right now by living with principles. Our relationship with God is a personal one. We believe that God is all that there is. Every person, place, or thing is not only an expression of God, but God itself. God is the absolute presence that not only creates, but is itself all things. All the love, peace, and beauty is in each of us as the presence of God right now. I know this of you, too. You are just as divine because God is within you as well. Together we are all connected as one. Our faith allows us to apply this philosophy to our lives in every moment of every day. As we live in love, we see love revealed and flowing through the world around us. We act as citizens of this spiritual community at all times. This is how we think. We believe in God, we believe in ourselves, and we believe in you because we believe in spiritual living.
All right. So just to give you a little insight into the background of that, that's when we start broadcasting. So that's kind of our cue for that. How are we doing this morning? Great. All right, good. So our theme this month has been the soul's call. The soul's call. And this is our last week together. And we've been talking about what this idea of a soul's call is. It is that complicated, deep calling within each one of us that is always pushing us to grow, to heal, to expand our consciousness of what is possible. And so I like to start off with something funny. So there was 3 men who were going to a firing squad. And the first man was brought out and put in front of the firing squad, and he yelled, "Avalanche!" And the firing squad panicked, and in the confusion, he was able to jump over the wall and escape. So the second man thought about this, and he came out, and he was brought out in front of the firing squad, and before they could shoot him, he said, "Earthquake!" And the firing squad panicked, and the second man was able to jump over the wall and get to freedom. And the third man watched all this, and he thought, I see what's going on. You yell a disaster and jump over the wall, and you're free. So they bring him out in front of the firing squad, and he turns to face the firing squad, and he says, "Fire!" So the lesson there is when you're answering the soul's call to freedom, be aware that your words have power, right? So our topic this week is about our soul's call to freedom. Our soul's call to freedom. It is that call in our souls which we have come into this human experience to be. It is that deep urging within you that is always seeking freedom. It is that deep call at the core of your being that is declaring who and what you are. So Ernest Holmes, this is one of my favorite quotes, has a quote that says, "Be proud. You are a divine idea in the mind of God." Be proud. You are a divine idea in the mind of God. Now, here's the thing about that. God doesn't own a label maker. God doesn't own a label maker. God is a presence and a principle. Just like gravity. Gravity doesn't look at a plane and say, oh, I'm going to pull twice as hard on that. Although I've had some Monday mornings when I was pretty sure that the gravity around my bed was twice as powerful as it should have been. So what is this divine idea? Ernest Holmes says we should be proud because we are a divine idea in the mind of God. What's a divine idea? Well, Ernest Holmes gives us the answer in the Science of Mind textbook. He says, what is a divine idea? Divine ideas are perfect, but humans' freedom of individuality causes them to appear imperfect. Divine ideas are perfect, but humans' freedom of individuality causes them to appear imperfect. Imperfection is just another label. The only truth is that God can only create by knowing itself. That's how the universe creates. There is only one substance, there's only one principle, there's only one presence in the universe, that is God. And so the only way that God could create was by knowing itself as everything that you see, including what you see in the mirror. Imperfection is a label that we put on things. And God doesn't own a label maker. That label didn't come from the divine. It's a label that we, in our human imperfection, put on something. The truth is, you should be proud because you are a divine idea in the mind of God. There is nothing broken, there is nothing missing in you, in that divine idea, because divine ideas can only be perfect. Lack and limitations are labels that we put on ourselves and that we put on other people and that we allow other people to put on us. There are times in life when I feel like all we do is walk around and slap bumper stickers on people, right? We look at each other and we think, oh, I know that person. That person's a vegetarian. Smack, bumper sticker. That person's a this. That person's a that. That person's not good at this. They're great at that. Right? And we do the same things to ourselves. Even so much as like the clothes that we wear. We see this a lot in elementary school and high school and junior high. And as a teacher, I see this a lot. The brand that you wear, right, says what tribe you belong to. Have you ever noticed? And the thing is, like, you're basically paying for the privilege to be that company's billboard, right? And we announce ourselves by the kind of car that we drive or the brands that we wear. We say, this is my tribe of people. Interesting, right? But the soul's call for freedom is to be who you are without those labels. Who are you without all the labels that you put on yourself? Without all the labels that the material world has put on you? Who are you when all of those labels are gone? Let's skip to the end. You're a divine idea in the mind of God. That's who you are. And we are in the process of waking up to that idea. Alan Watts says, waking up to who you are requires letting go of who you imagine yourself to be. We grow up throughout our whole lives collecting labels. My favorite, and the one that I come across a lot in fourth graders, right? The I'm not good at math label. Who's carrying that one around? Right? Somewhere in your educational career, 10s or 20s years ago, someone gave you a label that said, oh, I'm not good at math. And you said, yes, I like that. and you stuck it to yourself. Yep. I'm not good at math. How about I'm not any good at art? Anybody got that one? All right, I'm not good at art. I'm not good at PE. It's another fourth grade one I hear a lot. Oh, I'm not good at that. We go around in our lives collecting these labels that we allow the material world to put on us. But here's the thing about science of mind. Science of mind is that philosophy that we teach here. It is a philosophy, it is a spirituality, it is a way of life. And I was getting ready for this talk, and I came across this quote from Janet Mock. And she wrote a book called Redefining Realness, My Path to Womanhood, Identity, Love, and so much more. And the quote says, "Self-definition and self-determination is about the many varied decisions that we make to compose and journey toward ourselves." Self-definition and self-determination. And I saw that and I thought, really, when you think about our science of mind philosophy, this thing that we call religious science, or Centers for Spiritual Living, whatever name you want to give it, it's really about two very important ideas: self-definition and self-determination. What does that mean? Self-definition means we have the freedom to choose what labels to keep and which ones to throw away. They're labels, not tattoos. If you don't want to accept that label, peel it off. Throw it away. Give yourself a new label. That is true freedom. That is the soul's call for freedom. You have the ability to self-define. You say who you are choosing to be in every moment. You choose to accept the labels and ideas in your life. Every time that you say, I am, fill in the blank, you are making a declaration to the world about who you are. And you're putting that label back on yourself. So as I was sitting with this idea this week, getting ready for this talk, I was kind of stuck. And I suddenly flashed back to my childhood. Now, it might be hard for some of you to understand because I'm so handsome and young looking. But I've been doing this thing called metaphysics, this thing called New Thought, since I was in junior high. And one of the first ways that I got into this teaching was through an author named Neale Donald Walsch, who we heard from earlier. And he wrote a series of books called The Conversations with God. Remember that? That was a long time ago. If you haven't picked up your Conversations with God in a while, might be worth your time to go back and look at that. If you've never looked at that series of books, they are a great introduction to metaphysics and to New Thought, without the wordiness of Ernest Holmes. So it just kind of hit me. I flashed back to junior high, and I remember reading Neale Donald Walsch, and remember I'm a teenager, and I have all this world pressure on me, and peer pressure, and all of these identity things going on, and all those lovely things we all remember from high school, right? And I started reading The Conversations with God. And what I walked away with was this idea that I got to choose. I had self-definition and self-determination about who I got to be. It wasn't about what my friends were telling me I was or who I should be. It wasn't about who my parents said I was or who I should be. I got to choose. And in that idea is this soul's call to freedom. So Neale Donald Walsch says this: you can remain in your present idea about yourself, or you can choose again. I like the idea of choosing again. Glorify who you are today. Do not condemn who you were yesterday. and dream of who you can be tomorrow. Glorify who you are today. Do not condemn who you were yesterday, and dream of who you will be tomorrow. He goes on to say, there is no need to punish yourself. Simply notice what you've been choosing and choose again. Every choice we make tells the world who we are choosing to be. Every choice that we make, every thought that we think is our declaration to the world about who we are choosing to be. And here's where the soul's call to freedom comes in. If you don't like who you are, make a different choice. You have that amazing freedom. One of my favorite quotes is from Eleanor Roosevelt, who says that if you argue for your limitations, can you finish that? They're yours. If you argue for your limitations, they are yours. So let me rephrase that for you a little bit. If you argue for your labels, you get to keep them. How many times has someone come up to you and you have self-defined yourself? Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm not good at. Maybe not so much in those words, but right? We're constantly defining ourselves to the world around us. It even goes so far as somebody will say, oh, I'm not any good at that. And you look at them and say, you're great at that. What are you talking about? And they try to take that label off. And you go, no. That's my label. You can't have it. And they're like, no, but that label doesn't fit you anymore. And you, no, that's mine. And you start arguing for your labels. Anybody with me? I do it. But we have the ability to self-define and self-determination. Self-determination is that we get to decide that we are the cause of the way life shows up. Sound familiar? Another term for this is the internal locus of control. What does that mean? That means we live from the inside out. If it's in your experience, if it's in your life, it didn't start out there. It started within each one of us. Each one of us, and every choice that we make, is either attracting to us or repulsing everything in our life. Everything in your life, you are either attracting or pushing away. Think about this. You meet a new person. Somewhere in your consciousness, you meet that new person and you think, oh, I like that person. They're on my vibe. They're in my tribe. And you attract them. Or you meet that person and you're like, I'm not feeling it. And you push them away. We do that same exact thing with everything in our life. Every choice we make, every thought that we think, we either attract or repulse. Someone says, you are amazing at art. I really liked that. You're an amazing public speaker. We either accept it or we push it away. We say, no, that's not who I am. And in that process, we define who we are and who we are choosing to be. So, if we're not going to argue for our limitations, we need to argue for our truth. We need to argue for our possibilities. And we have a spiritual practice called prayer. Prayer is that time when we enter into the truth of who we are. We remind ourselves who we are in that moment. We start with the first step. The way that we teach prayer here in the Science of Mind has 5 steps. The first step is recognition. And in that step of prayer, we are recognizing that God is all that there is. Doesn't get any more expansive than that. Right? We're peeling off labels. God is all there is. And if God is all there is, then I am all that God is. Second step, unification. And if I know that God is all there is and I am all that God is, then I get to have self-determination and self-definition, and I get to define what I'm going to attract and what I'm going to push away. I get to choose what I'm going to experience and how I'm going to experience it. And then we give thanks for that. That's the realization step, where we're arguing for our truth. We're arguing for our possibilities. We're arguing for the fact that we are a divine idea in the mind of God. And then we move into thanksgiving, where we're grateful for that. And then we release our word and we complete the prayer. But instead of arguing for our limitations, what if we argued for our truth? We spent a lot of time this year talking about visioning. Visioning is another one of our spiritual practices. We've been talking about visioning, being receptive to this divine pattern, this idea that is awaiting your recognition of it, that is trying to live its life as you, that divine idea that we call God. So I want you to close your eyes for just a minute. And I want you to imagine a version of yourself that is living a 100% conscious, awake, aware, and authentic life. Imagine a version of yourself where you are living a 100% conscious, awake, aware, and authentic life. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What are you doing? How are you being? A version of you that is 100% conscious, awake, aware, and authentic. And when you're ready, I invite you to reopen up your eyes. And think about the difference between that idea and where you are today. We have the ability to consciously change our thoughts, our words, and our actions to match that greatest vision for our life, that greatest version of who we are. And we come again to Neil Donald Walsh, who says this: when you catch yourself thinking negative thoughts, those are thoughts that negate your highest idea about a thing, think again. I want you to do this literally. If you think you are in a doldrum, in a pickle, and no good can come out of this, think again. If you think the world is a bad place filled with negative events, think again. If you think your life is falling apart and it looks like you'll never get it back together again, think again. Be proud because you are a divine idea in the mind of God. Take this opportunity to ask yourself, are there any labels that I've been carrying around that no longer serve me? That no longer describe who I am choosing to be? How might your life be different if you were living a life of freedom? I'm paraphrasing, but Ernest Holmes says that we are either attracting or repulsing everything in our lives. So what are you attracting? What are you pushing away? Are you pushing away your good? The seed of freedom is planted in your innermost being, but it is up to each of us to discover that freedom. Because you are so free that if you want to ignore your freedom, you can. That is the just a really golden thread of our teaching. You are so free that if you want to ignore the fact that you're free, you can. But when you do that, guess what? You're proving the principle. You're so free that you can ignore your own freedom. So what are the spiritual principles we've talked about today? Number 1, freedom. Freedom is your birthright. Be yourself. Be that divine idea that you are meant to be here on this world, in this world. Be yourself. The world will adapt. And also, allow other people that gift. We all have the ability to define ourselves. Allow other people that ability too. The more we express ourselves authentically, the more we inspire others to do the same. This is how we create a world that works for all. Number 2, you have self-definition and self-identification. You are the only person who can define what it means to be you, what it means to be that divine idea in the mind of God. You are always choosing who you are in every moment of your day. Number 3, you have the ability to change what you are choosing by simply noticing what you're choosing and choose something else. What are the spiritual practices that go with those principles? Number 1, we talked about treatment. The idea that instead of arguing for our possibilities, we're going to enter into prayer, into contemplation, and we're going to argue for our truth, for the possibilities, for who we are and what we know about ourselves. Number 2, the spiritual practice of study. That is one of our spiritual practices here at Center for Spiritual Living. Taking classes to learn more about who you are in relationship to the universe and how you can use your freedom and your choice. Number 3, affirmation. Remember that every time you say, I am, you're labeling yourself. You, like that man in front of the firing squad, have the power of your word. Listen for those opportunities in which you are defining who you are, and take a moment to decide if that's really how you want to define yourself. There's no right or wrong in that process, but you need to listen to the conversations that you have and what you tell people who you are. Every time you say I am, you are defining yourself. But the other side of that is also true. Every time you say you are, you're labeling somebody else. Now, whether or not they decide to accept and own that label is up to them. But I think we should be conscious and aware of how we label other people, and allow for the possibility that they might show up differently than we expect. Do you have that person in your life who is always late? And in your mind, you've labeled them, that person is late, right? And you take that label and you stick it on them, and even if they were to show up early one day, you probably wouldn't notice. Because you've already made up your mind that's the label that they have in your mind. So be careful how you label other people. Label other people with the truth. And if you can't do that, at least allow for the possibility that they might change. Have you ever had somebody in your life who you've labeled who suddenly showed up in a different way and you were confused? And you thought, well, that's odd. That's not who they are. That won't last. Because they're violating their labels. They're showing up in a way that you didn't expect. So allow other people the possibility of changing their own labels. Allow other people to show up differently than you expect. So the call of our soul is to evolve and expand, to celebrate. We get to shine that freedom out into the world. We get to choose to evolve consciously through our choices, not because it's happening to us, but because we consciously choose who and what we are. And in that way, we shine our freedom into the world, and we bring love and light to everybody that we meet. And so it is. So I invite you to enter into that atmosphere of prayer with me this morning. Going just a little bit deeper, a little bit more mindful than perhaps we've been before. In this moment, recognizing that God is all there is. It is all a divine idea in the mind of God. The stars, the plants, the grass, the roses, the clouds, the difficulties, the feelings, the emotions, the relationships, our bodies, they are all a divine idea in the mind of God. And in that space where I recognize God is all there is, I know that God is love, that God is infinite wisdom, infinite peace, divine and perfect action, overwhelming abundance, beautiful balance. Those are the things that I know about God, and I know that that is the essence of the universe. It is the circumference, it is the center, and it is everything in between. It is everything seen and unseen, known and unknown. It is all God. And I know in this moment that I am that infinite love. I am that infinite wisdom. I am that divine and perfect action. I am that freedom. And what I claim for myself, I know for each person here this morning within the sound of my voice. You are the essence of love. You are the essence of freedom. You are the divine and perfect action of God taking place. You are God knowing itself and creating life through and as you. And so knowing that that is true, I know that whatever is needed this morning is present. Because you are a divine idea in the mind of God. That everything that God is, all those qualities of God are right where you are. So wherever there is this perception of lack, I know that abundance is the choice and the availability and the reality. Wherever there is a sense of imbalance or disharmony, I know that peace and harmony and balance are there because you are there and I am there and God is there. I know wherever there is a need for wholeness, I know that there is nothing missing, nothing broken, because the only thing that's happening is a divine idea. And so knowing this truth, I'm so grateful for all the different ways that that love, that light, that truth, that freedom is showing up as you, as me, as our world. And I release my word into that law that always says yes, and reflects back to us perfectly all that we have placed into it. And together we say, and so it is. So I'm going to lead us in our benediction in a moment, and then I have some class certificates to celebrate and hand out this morning. So I would like to invite you to place your hand over your hearts.
Thank you for participating in our service. You can do online giving by texting GIVE to 951-420-6909. You can visit our website at cslbeaumont.org and click the donate button at the bottom or the top of the screen. Or you can mail your donation to Center for Spiritual Living, 802 Maple Avenue, Beaumont, California, 92223.
I know it, and I believe it. In all the ways
If
that
you
it
enjoyed
is,
this service and are watching on YouTube or
all
Facebook,
the
please
ways
like
that
and
it's
share
showing
this
up.
video and add a comment on it. If you haven't
Thank
already
you,
on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel and hit the little notification bell to be updated when we post new content. For those on Zoom,
All right,
visit our
wrap up
Facebook
our
page to comment and share to help
Sunday
spread